got to wait for them to kick in. So Jamie, I have to wait for them to go from amber to red to green, and all depending on which one comes in first, we have to fill. So Emily, what should we fill about? Oh, what did you see? Jamie's amazing handkerchief there. I think that was the way. Is that also your bow? Was that your bow tie as well, Jamie?
Absolutely. I thought I'd just blow my nose before we got started. Seems I woke up with a bit of cold this morning. Typical when you're going to be on air.
This is made for TV, Emily, isn't it?
Made for TV. Yeah, all live.
Excellent. Okay, team, we're now live. So we're gonna do this properly, Jamie. Okay, so Jamie, have you blown your nose? Are you all ready to go?
We're all good, ready to roll.
Okay, your ears are all working. Let's check in with Mark. Mark, are you all good to go?
I'm all good. Let's crack on.
He's so cool, our Mark. Emily, well, you're just perfection personified, so there's no issue there. Hello, my name is Max McGillibrey from Beanstalk Global. Emily, I'm going to throw you under the bus. Tell us what we're doing today. Go.
What are we doing today? We are hearing from Jamie Butler, who is a strategic dairy farm from AHDB, but also well known within the Southeast for having a wonderfully run dairy business, which is bigger than that. It's diversified into multiple things. So Jamie's got a bit of a history in leadership and development and is making a thing of that at Meon Springs as well. So we are being guided by Jamie on what he's learned and what he's doing going forward as well.
And Jamie, we will allow you to talk in a minute. Mark, do you think that everyone that's dialed in either on this live or listening on the podcast or on the pre-record, on the post-record, on the record, that they should all have a look at Jamie's social media? Mark, what do you think?
No, definitely have a look at Jamie's social media, and the plethora of activities and enterprises and things they do down in Hampshire is well worth a look. So check him out on LinkedIn.
Emily, why do we need more Jamies in our sector?
Oh, I think Jamie looks at leadership and management differently, and I think that works very well within dairy businesses and beyond.
In what are we inferring here? That within the sector we could be a bit myopic, and we need to look and see and diversify and find other ways of doing things. Emily,
learn from other industries. Yeah, that's certainly. I know Jamie, well, a little while ago, learned from someone that's done lean management, and that's come from machinery businesses and Toyota, and Jamie took a lot from that. So
yeah. And Emily, should we let Jamie say something now? What do you think? Do we let the guest in at this point?
I think we probably could.
We've only done 55 of these with Mark and the fantastic Isaac. Jamie, you introduce yourself, please, and tell just in a couple of paragraphs. Tell us your story. Go, Jamie.
Max, thank you very much for that. I'm loving listening to you all and hearing what you're all saying about me. So you can carry on for the next 50 minutes if you like, and I'll just take it all in and learn from you. So my name's Jamie Butler, and I run a dairy farm in Hampshire with my brother Will. It's a family dairy. My grandfather bought it in 1930, back in the days when there was no roads coming up here and it's tracks and very, very remote. And it's still very remote. If you come down our lanes now, they're extremely narrow and the access is very, very poor. And we'll come on to that later as to the reasons why we've diversified to be doing what we're doing. But it's a wonderful business. I've been back in the family business here since 1994, so that's over 30 years now. And when I came home, it was very much a mixed farm in terms it had pigs, cows, sheep, and crops. Now it's still a mixed farm, but it's the only livestock enterprise on it is dairy. But we diversified very much into the people sector, and that's been the sort of project all the way along. Really, I guess it's developed in the way it has because I love doing new things. I love taking risks to a certain extent, and I don't mind reinventing myself and just moving things on. So hopefully within the next hour we should have sort of an interesting conversation about what I do that might inspire other people to do things differently too.
Excellent. And just to everyone, if you've got questions, if you're in on Zoom, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and you've got questions for Jamie or Emily or Mark, send them in. We've already had one message in from social media saying, I'm related to Will, Jamie's brother, and I can confirm that Jamie's more handsome than his brother. So should we leave it at that? Mark, take us away.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, everyone. So this is episode 56 of Talking Leaders, which is a series where we bring interesting people from inside and outside of agriculture to learn from them and how their journeys and their experiences can help us as British agriculture to better lead ourselves, lead our business, and lead our people. And today we've got Jamie, a fellow dairy farmer.
Okay, and just explain why we got Emily in, which is fantastic. It's great to have the both of you on board.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, and like Emily mentioned, Jamie is part of our Farm Excellence platform as a strategic dairy farmer, and with his diverse business, again looking into the people sector and the interest where my paths have crossed with him. He's also a very forward-thinking dairy farmer that's looking to stretch and challenge himself and share his journey with the wider industry. So we thought, why not do something together?
Yeah,
so that's what brings it.
Well done, Emily. Sorry, Mark. Emily, just give us a bit of an understanding as to your key role within the esteemed organisation that is the AHDB, please.
That is the AHDB. So I'm in the Dairy Knowledge Exchange team. So I'm covered down the Southeast and East Anglia. And as one of our strategic dairy farms, Jamie hosts meetings and shares knowledge with farmers regionally. And then we haven't actually done anything online. So like we said, Jamie's got quite a good following on his social media presence on LinkedIn as well. So we thought it would be nice to do something online and reach a wider audience. So my role is kind of organising and facilitating those events and making sure that people can take as much as possible from them.
Well done. And Emily, let's see how this goes. Jamie, on the basis of the massive performance fee that we're paying you for today, I presume that you find the relationship that you have with the likes of Emily, her colleagues, Mark, and the HDB, I presume you find it very, very beneficial, and it's something very good for the sector?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, HDB are a brilliant organisation. They both from the point of view of supporting us as in being a AHDB strategic farm, and the journey that we've sort of gone on together really for the last 2 or 3 years in changing our business to make it a better dairying business, but also the resources they put out and the infinite amount of work that goes in behind the scenes to create just something sort of wonderful for dairy farmers to be able to dive into and get what we need to run our businesses better.
Yeah, well said. And a number of events I've been involved with the AHDB. I can when I've asked people, they're learning so much, but they're also learning so much from what do we call it, Mark, at the bar by meeting the likes of yourself, Jamie. Everyone's got the same problems, but people might have different solutions or be slightly more advanced in their thinking as to how they create their solutions. So, Mark, that comes back to our word of the decade, doesn't it? Collaboration. So having the likes of Jamie collaborating with the AHDB, with Emily, and all round, Mark, that's beneficial all round? All round?
Hugely. Yeah, massively, hugely beneficial, and like you say, bringing like-minded people together, sharing the independent knowledge and data that we have is absolutely huge. So yeah, it's all about people.
Okay, and talking to people, Jamie, come on, Mark, set us off. What questions are we going to ask Jamie that's going to really put him back on his back foot? That's going to really challenge him. Go, Mark.
So today's broadcast is all about leadership and how we lead in a very diverse business. So let's kick off, Jamie. Could you give us a little bit of a bit more of an overview of Meon Springs and how you said how it's evolved from a family perspective, but what actually diversified enterprises do you have today within the business?
So Meon Springs, when I came home to the business in 1994, as I said previously, it's very much a farming business. It's still very diverse in terms of we had pigs, cows, sheep, and crops. So there's always a lot going on here. There's always has been diversity within the business, but it became very clear at the time. I don't know if you remember, some of the older ones will. That you know, remember those credit card machines where you put them in and you went zip zip and money came into your bank account. I worked out very, very soon that if money coming into the bank account that way retained a lot more profit than money coming in the bank account through like a milk check or something like that. And it was a proper milk check back in those days. So I got quite interested in farming people would be the wrong word, but I guess it's possibly also the right word as well. But I got quite interested in getting people to come to the valley, which is a beautiful valley, and as Emily and Mark know because they've both been here, it's a stunning location. I got very interested in attracting people here and offering experiences and things that they could do that would build that side of the business. So before I came home, we had a fly fishery. There's a river running through the farm called the River Meon. It's right at the headwaters, and we had a little fly fishery, and we used to get 7 or 8 fishermen a week come to do day fishing. So to start with, I thought, well, let's just build that up. So we did that, and we built that up to now we have sort of 20, 25 people coming in a day, all with online booking. And we have corporate events and bits and pieces to do with the fishing industry. And then we took that a bit forward, a bit further, probably towards the late 90s. There was a crisis in the pig industry, and we had a lot of pigs on the farm. We had 8,000 pigs we were selling a year, so it was a lot. You know, that was a big enterprise. But there was a time at that sort of stage when pigs were the pig price just went through the floor. What we were selling for £27, which, as in like a fattened pig, was costing £30 to feed. So we're losing £3 a pig on each pig that we were selling. So it was a kind of crisis moment, and they're difficult moments in farming. And I'm sure that some of you who are listening will be able to relate to the times when things aren't going quite so well, and you don't know what to do. But we took the decision at that stage that we had to let go of this enterprise, and which we did. And I think letting go of something, if there's a leadership lesson to learn, is probably one of the hardest things to do, but probably one of the most transformational as well, because you can't build unless you let go. It's a little bit like the sort of the cycle of nature. Things have to die for new things to evolve. So with the pig enterprise disappearing, we ended up with a number of empty buildings. And interestingly, around the back of these buildings, my dad had built a road, and we called it the road to nowhere because it didn't actually sort of head anywhere in particular. But it ended up at the end of that road, we built a self-storage business. And so that was the next thing we started off in the early 2000s, which is at the time that Big Yellow were just sort of starting out with their self-storage. And that's been very, very successful. That's been a nice back-burning sort of passive income business for the last sort of 20, 25 years now. So I guess the business then continued to evolve, and it got to a point in around about sort of 2010, I think it was, when people were just starting to put up sort of tents and do more camping kind of things. And we set up a yurt village.
Wow.
If anyone knows, not everyone will know what a yurt is, but they're basically a Mongolian house. It's a tent that we set up half a dozen of these in the Hampshire countryside for people to come and go holiday making in. Had no idea whether the enterprise was going to work, but it did. People came and stayed. And then some years later, the word glamping got invented, and that's kind of effectively what it is. And then since then, we put on some shepherd's huts and built that enterprise, and now we're moving into doing more corporate business with those facilities. So that just gives you some sort of background as to how we've developed into sort of diversified different things.
Emily, can I ask a question? Is Jamie? We know Jamie's very unique, but do you think Jamie is very unique as a dairy farmer in the amount of diversification he's created in comparison to other dairy farmers within your cohort, Emily?
Well, I think, where I am in the southeast, there's quite a lot of diversification because I think that's due to the amount of people that there is, the sheer amount of volume of cars and traffic, and people making the most of that. There is opportunity there. I think Jamie's interesting because you haven't touched on yet your kind of history before coming back to the farm, and that's probably what started your leadership journey, maybe. Yeah. So do you want to tell us about that and why that brought leadership to the forefront of you, and then how you run the business?
You remember, Jamie, when you were a professional footballer? Tell us all about it.
Well, as I told you before, Matt, I worked for a company called Management Development Services, which were a graduate recruitment company in the fresh produce industry. And as a trainee, I worked on mushroom farms, celery farms, nurseries, and I worked for G's Fresh Produce for a while on the onion business. And that gave me a basic grounding in management. There was sort of management training courses and programs in there. But the interesting thing was, when I left it, I was a bit kind of at a loss as to what to do or where I was going. I didn't really fancy going into the fresh produce companies as such, and probably sort of had more of an aspiration to go traveling and do not a lot. This is talking about sort of mid late 20s. And I got a phone call from one of the directors of MDS who sort of said, you know, we've got a job interview for you. Can you come up? I was at home at the time. I said, can you come up to East Anglia and meet us? And I said, well, I guess I could. I'm not really that interested in working for these member companies. He said, well, you might find it interesting, he said. So I said, well, okay, well, as long as you pay my expenses, I'll toot along around the M25. So I went on the M25 and got hauled into the office, and Philip Neal, who was the director of Greens of Surrey at the time, started talking to me and sort of said, well, Jamie, you're here because you're slightly different. And I thought, oh, that's a good start, isn't it? So he said, we've been watching your progress through MDS, and it's been a bit checkered. I nearly got fired on at least a couple of occasions. And he sort of said, but so the guy who's running it, unfortunately, we've had to let him go. And therefore, we're looking for somebody to be the general manager at MDS. And we thought you might be the person to do it. And I nearly fell off my seat. As I say, my history in MDS as a trainee wasn't particularly sort of top of the league. It was like, could try harder. But I took the job, and it was probably the best thing I ever did in terms of learning about leadership and getting chucked into the to the deep end, basically becoming a boss of all my peers.
Wow.
Who were far better trainees than I ever was, or certainly in my mind they were. I had to sort of step up and review them and second them and do everything else to make sure that their lives were good and effective. So that was a really good background and basis for my sort of leadership journey. And it's kind of sort of developed. So I've always had an inkling for training and development as well, probably based on that experience of running MDS at the time and seeing what a transformation it actually can make to people, including myself, in terms of actually speeding up your leadership journey.
Yeah.
So,
Jamie, well done. I'm just going to steal that theme. Emily, we have so many people on with Mark and Isaac who have done the likes of Nuffield Farming Scholarship or Worshipful Company of Farming. Emily, do you think we can learn from the likes of Jamie that Jamie stood out from the family, got reskilled, take this the right way, Jamie, more sophisticated commercially, and then came back in and then was able to develop the business? Emily, should we be looking to get people to explore other avenues like Nuffield, like Worshipful Company of Farmers, like MDS? Emily, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think the advice is there. I mean, I'm not from a farming family and from a farming business, but to try and go elsewhere, experience being managed and led by somewhere else, especially if you're going back to the family farm. And that's something I also look after, a program that Entrepreneurs in Dairying. So that's kind of young people or next generation potentially taking on the family farm or going off on their own route. And probably advice there is lots of them have already maybe gone to New Zealand and done a couple of seasons out there, and that's similar, kind of experiencing something else and maybe experienced how to be poor management, and then you learn from other people's mistakes, which I always think is nice. But maybe Jamie learned from his own there if he almost had a checkered history with MDS there.
And Emily, I apologise, I didn't know about that society that you have within the AHDB for those young dairy folk. Jamie, that's brilliant, isn't it? Because that's just that's growing the future, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly what you need. And actually, it's interesting at my age now, I'm 59, coming up 60, and it's interesting now just looking at the next generation coming through. And the enthusiasm in this industry is huge. I mean, the number of people that come to me and sort of say, oh, you must find it difficult to find people to work in agriculture, and it's such a hard business and it's so difficult. But the enthusiasm in the industry for the younger generation is absolutely massive. And you see it on social media as well. I mean, the sort of things that people are doing and talking about, and the risks they're taking and the fun they're having, but also just working through the hard knocks as well. It's really encouraging. And to be honest with you, agriculture is such an exciting industry to be in at the moment. There's so much change happening, and there's so many opportunities. You've only got to look for it.
Yeah. Now, Mark, would you recommend this sector to other people?
Oh, hugely. And I'm like Emily. I'm non-farming background, but I completely agree with what Jamie's saying in terms of the opportunity and the enthusiasm we see across the business, across the industry is phenomenal. But thinking about Meon Springs and looking across that quite complex, diverse business, what does good leadership mean in that kind of scenario of complexity and a multifaceted business to you?
I think it's a combination of structure and delegation. Everybody likes to work for themselves. There's nobody I've met yet who doesn't like autonomy and being able to do things and express themselves in their own way. It's very easy as a boss to give autonomy, and I guess in some respects I've probably at times given too much autonomy and then gone, oh my God, look what's going on there. But autonomy within a structure, I think, is probably the key mark. And the structure that we use is very much an outcome-focused structure. So always like to think of the big picture and then bring it down to the detail. So, for example, we as a business, we set our vision and mission, which some businesses do, others don't. Sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. With us, this happened about 5 or 6 years ago now. My father died in 2018, and it kind of takes a couple of years to get over that in a business, because it's just that dynamic, that sort of that historical figure who's always run it, how it's always been. He wasn't a particularly controlling dad or anything like that, but when he left, my brother and I had to sort of kind of just reinvent it a little bit and rethink where we're going and what we're doing. And so I think it was early 2020, we sat down and we wrote this vision, and it was to be the most productive farm in the UK naturally. And it was a kind of a stretch vision, because productivity was the key to it. That's what we were looking for. But naturally was a kind of a value. We didn't want to do it in terms of just whacking on the inputs to try and get as most output we can out of the farm and just stay ahead of the curve all the time. We wanted to do it in a more natural sort of circular system. But we were both quite excited about this vision. And then when we sat around with our what we call our bosses team, which others might call a board of directors, or the government might call it a cabinet office or something like that, one of the guys immediately sort of said to me, "What the fuck does that mean?" to which you sort of sit there and go, "Oh," and you realise what a sort of bullshit statement you've actually made. But it was a great question, because we probably spent the last 5 or 6 years unraveling that and grounding out what that actually means. Because on its own, and I've been in businesses where they come up with these statements just like that, and they stick them all over the wall. Statements. Nowadays it's all over the internet. But you actually just have to bring that down a level to ground it out. So for me, we sell around about 4 million litres of milk to Sainsbury's, and a naturally productive take on that is we've got to basically fill that bulk tank with profitable milk. That's the kind of sort of key. That's the area that you can, everyone can sort of tangibly attach to. So you've got the big sort of slightly sort of stretched vision above it, but then you've got to bring it down to 4 million litres of milk profitably produced, going out day by day, 25 fishermen a day coming in at a margin of X. You've got to bring it down to the numbers eventually to make that work. So that's a key part of getting that structure right. Why is it important to have these kind of things? It just makes conversations easier, because when you get to a situation where somebody's sort of saying, "Oh, I want to buy a big fancy tractor," or something like that, you can sort of say, "Yeah, well, that's absolutely great. Put the figures on the table. We'll look at it. How does that fit into a profitable arable farming? How does that fit into a naturally productive vision that we have?" And then everything just becomes a much more objective conversation rather than a subjective. Well, I like it because it's a Fendt, or it's a John Deere, or it's it's just good. It just really works to have that outcome focus. There's another side to it, which I'll come back to later. Remind me to come back to the other side of the outcome focus later.
Yeah.
Can I
go, Emily?
Can I say, so the first time we met, Jamie, I think you brought out what I called kind of the organogram and the business structure and who has which roles, which I think, like you say, it's integral to your business, but you've pulled that down to kind of outcome based. So could you just explain a little bit more about the structure, those roles and responsibilities, and then how you decide the outcomes that those people are responsible for?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the roles and responsibilities, it comes down to, I read a book years ago called The E-Myth. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, or you may or may not have done, but the one thing I got out of it was just this idea that it said, when you set up your company structure, don't write the names down and give people jobs, write the jobs down and give people names. So set yourself up as if you're the biggest organization at the time, which I think in the early 90s, Tesco's were probably one of the sort of biggest supermarkets. You know, what does their structure look like? And obviously it's got a marketing function, an HR function, somebody in charge of health and safety, somebody in charge of finance. And what we did was we took that structure and we just put a name on everything. Well, of course, as a small business, it could be my name or my brother's name on most of those roles. But each different area, we have somebody responsible for. So, I mean, HR, for example, is me. So there's an HR issue on the farm, everybody knows, go to Jamie. Health and safety is my brother. Well, actually, I do quite a lot of that, but he's one responsible for it, mainly because and my brother's friend or relative who's watching this can vouch for it. If it goes wrong, it means that he goes to prison rather than me. But the point is that everyone has a role, and obviously we've got a dairy unit manager, and then we've got a feeder manager, and everything else, and it just delineates who does what within the structure. The outcome focus sort of sits slightly to the side of that, because everybody can get involved in ideas and as to how the business can evolve and grow within the kind of naturally productive framework. I always have a rule within that structure, because obviously my brother and I sit at the top of it, and then we have our directors, and then the directors have teams of people that we've got dairy team, non-farming team, things like that. We also have this rule that I or anybody can speak to anybody else on the farm, but when it comes to giving an order, unless it's an absolute emergency, it goes through the management chain. So I won't tell the chap who's feeding the cows how to do something, or even to do a job, without going to the guy who runs the dairy unit, because otherwise that just breaks the whole cycle.
Yeah. Team, do you remember, Mark, we haven't used this quote for ages. Do you remember that quote from Kennedy in, I'm going to go for 1964. Someone will correct me in the comments, that when he was visiting Cape Canaveral, and they were about to launch to stick some people on the moon, and there was a janitor there with a mop, and Kennedy said to the janitor, "What do you do?" The guy with the mop, and the guy with the mop said, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." So, Jamie, throwing it back at you, if we met some of your team and we said, "What's the plan? Where's this business going?" Would they know? Would they have it? What would they say?
Well, there'd be some and some. Let's get real in the business. I mean, the janitor story is a great one, but it's not necessarily the full reality. So some people want to come to work just because they want to work.
Yep. Well,
they're not really going to be that interested in your bigger vision and everything else. As a boss and a leader, of course, you've got to have that, and you've got to, and you hope that your directors and the people in the areas of responsibility are going to buy in that and go to that. I mean, they certainly all know about it, and they're all built into the structure of it. But I guess, I mean, it's an interesting thing in organisation, isn't it? Because we sort of still have this kind of patriarchal way of working in organisations, where the boss is almost like the parent figure, and then the workers are like the child, and even the whole sort of review system, like you sort of sit down and everybody sits opposite each other, and it's kind of like, well, what do you think of me, boss? Like, you know, that I like to sort of think that actually everybody is always working for themselves. Everybody is self-employed, regardless of whether it's an employment contract or a self-employed contract or anything else.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have their own visions for themselves and what they want to do with their careers, their lives, and everything else. And all we're doing is just creating a sort of jigsaw. If their vision is fitting with our vision for the time being, and we're all going together, that's absolutely great. If their vision is to then go off and do something else, well, that's fine. We'll bring somebody else into our jigsaw to help build our vision. And then, you know, we supply milk to Sainsbury's, so we're part of Sainsbury's vision as well in producing sustainable milk for them. We're part of the AHDB's vision. We're one of your strategic dairy farms, and that sort of fits as part of that situation as well. AHDB is part of the government's vision of having some kind of support for farmers within the industry, and so on and so forth.
Emily's very good, isn't he? I can see just to give you, that's a really good point that you make, because quite often Mark and Isaac and I, Mark, we can be accused of being a bit jingoistic, can't we, about getting the team on board and let's go on this journey together. I know some businesses close to me where I'm based in Suffolk, and they're quite large businesses, and they've I don't know if this is right, and Emily, Mark, Jamie, see if you think, and they've got like 500 people, and they've worked out that say 25% of them are go-getters and they want to progress. And so they're on contract A. And so with contract A, they get training and development. And the other 75-60% of people, they just want to come in and do a job of work and have enough money to pay the mortgage, pay the bills, but they're not interested in developing, so they have contract B. So you have these contractor, and everyone gets on. And when I've voiced this in sort of other forums and other conversations, people say, no, this is wrong, because the people in contract B should be developed, but perhaps they don't want to be, like you're inferring, Jamie. Whilst it's great that you can perhaps concentrate on people on contract A. When I've been out and about, I remember going to a large company and filming there, and it was a fantastic building. But behind the scenes, the MD said, "I have to spend so much time with people who can't." Who are really good at what they do, but they sort of reach the level. But I have to spend so much time with them. I'd rather spend time with the other people that I can develop. So oh, Jamie, we said this so many times before. The best thing about running a business is employing people. The worst thing about running business is employing people.
Yeah.
So to Emily, do you find that with the sanguine words from Jamie, with your other cohort, do you find that they're much of a similar to Jamie, that they know their team really well, so they know how to apportion what roles, what delegation to give people?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I know Jamie's kind of perspective on reviews is maybe a little bit different than what others in the industry encourage, but I think understanding staff and employees' motivation, and whether that's within their role or within life, that's what's important, because everyone knows you can't just tick a box and say, yeah, they want more money. That's not the same for everyone. So I think it's a good way of looking at it. I know, Jamie, you've got values within the business, and when you're employing people, do you look for people to hold those values similarly?
Do I look for people to hold values similarly? Again, it's never quite as clear as that. It's a sort of yes and no answer. I think you've got to be careful as a leader, and I'm probably as guilty as anyone to that. You've got to be careful that you're not avoiding the difficult conversations. You're not sort of saying you want to do something, but you're not going to speak to somebody because you want them to like you or you'd be nice to. But again, that's another sort of situation where the outcome focus works so well, because you start thinking, well, actually, if we're trying to achieve X, and they're sort of like heading over in a direction of Y, it's my duty as a leader to bring that back in line.
Have you got an example you can share?
I've probably got a number of examples, but I don't want to vindicate anybody. But I guess the point I'm just sort of making is that you kind of depersonalize it. By having that approach depersonalizes it, and I think that's a really important point, because we've all got our own sort of patterns and psychological patterns and everything else. Everybody's different. I tend to sort of find life sort of quite stressful's the wrong word. I get quite anxious, and that's just a default pattern of mine. But to a certain extent, I tend to do things that actually are a bit out there. Like, years ago, I used to do a lot of rock climbing, and I think,
wow.
Partly, if there's not enough anxiety in my life, I go and look for it. I realise that's a pattern. It's quite useful to know that. But hold on, I forgot what my point is now. So the point is that having that outcome focus will help you detach and bring people back into the line that you want them to, whilst negating the fact that actually you're feeling really shit about doing something.
Boom.
Does that make sense?
It does. And Jamie, I just had a quick question in on one of the social media feeds. What's more important to you, the dairy or the diversification elements of your business?
Oh God, no, they're both absolutely key. I mean, the farming is the absolute heart of the business. The diversification I mean, it's also really an important part, but it would just feel completely soulless without the dairy
love
and
it.
the heart of the business.
Yeah. So and oh my God, I don't want to cross the line, but financially it all works out. Do they all interlock?
Well, yeah. I mean, the last few years that the farming's probably been stronger than the non-farming in a number of areas. I mean, take something like glamping. I mean, it was absolutely wonderful at COVID because nobody could go anywhere and everybody came to England to stay in a yurt. But of course, that all changed and everyone sort of disappeared off to Spain and the Middle East and on their holidays. And actually now that's changing again. They're starting to come back again. But the non-farming enterprises have been a bit flat for a year or two.
Okay, but the market might be coming towards you on the basis that Mark and I and Emily aren't going to go off to America, are we, to support England, because we've all had our flights cancelled, Mark, unless you say otherwise.
Yeah, the trains would be too expensive as well, so we're not going there.
Yeah, we're coming to you.
Yeah. So it does change. I mean, and I think again, business strength is more about the how than the what. I wouldn't be sitting here trying to tell everyone, go diversify your business, get into glamping, storage, everything else, because actually they all have their challenges and they can all be great for a while and they're not great. I mean, things like everyone thinks, storage, what a wonderful business to be in, but it only needs one storage unit too many, and the market collapses.
Yeah. Go on, Mark.
This is really interesting, and Meon Springs is definitely unique, but in terms of a diversified, complex business within agriculture, that definitely isn't unique. There'll be lots of people, lots of farmers around the country doing similar things to what you're doing. So with that in mind, how do you and your brother kind of prioritize your time and your decision making to get that balance across all the enterprises and all the business, so that you're not dropping balls and you're maintaining strong staff morale and strong team morale? How do you go about prioritising that time?
We work on a quarterly basis, and we have monthly, what we call bosses meetings, and within that quarter, we'll look at operations, we'll look at projects, we'll look at proposals, and we'll look at sort of support, things like sort of training and that sort of stuff. And it actually gets sort of quite detailed. We've got quite a detailed list of the different projects that we're working on and the different areas we're working on, what needs to be done. So we have an outcome for what those different things are, and then we always look at the higher outcome. I'm trying to think of an example that's coming to mind immediately. I'll think of something in a minute. But that's kind of how we work. So we do take it down to quite a sort of light level of detail, and then we monitor how we're getting on in those detailed things within the quarter, and then we do sort of quarterly figures. We always used to do monthly figures, but we find that's too much looking at figures, too much analysis.
Yeah.
So we do quarterly figures well rather than monthly figures badly.
Yeah. Mark, sorry, Jamie, you mentioned earlier about the corporate side that you're looking to further extend. Can you just, again, without crossing the line, just explain to us what that is in comparison to the glamping and the dairy element? What do you do corporately?
No, so that's very different. Our corporate enterprise has been quite interesting. We started doing corporate events back in 2003 with fishing and shooting. We used to have people coming, like doing what we call a cast and blast day on the lakes and the shooting range, and it was wonderful. It worked well for sort of 4 or 5 years. We built up quite a business, and then the banking crisis came along and kind of destroyed that. And there was another law that came in at the time. I don't know if you remember it, that you weren't allowed to entertain clients. I mean,
oh yes,
we're all encouraged to build relationships, but then it crosses the line. Well, no, you're entertaining those clients. You're sort of building bonds. I mean, what on earth? It's such a mixed message. But anyway, so that kind of dampened that down, and then we went into sort of corporate team building, where we had people having meetings here and then team building games and that kind of thing. And then COVID came along and destroyed that one for a couple of years. But since then, and what we're building now is a proper training and development business where we're actually doing training for corporate enterprises, and based around this outcome approach I'm talking about, a lot of it. But we're bringing in trainers. We're providing facilities, and we're having a lot of funding gains and things like that, getting people out of the office, but actually learning different ways of working, putting their teams together.
Okay.
And that's sort of still sort of fairly early iteration, but it's starting to gain a bit of traction now.
Okay.
And I think what's interesting about that is it's not so much what we're doing, but it's just as somebody who's developing it. I mean, you know, I'm a farmer at heart. I know I had a dalliance with sort of training and development with NDS, but I identify as a farmer. So when you start then thinking, well, actually, I need to be a trainer and a coach as well, and do that training.
Wow.
You have to kind of like almost you have to re-identify yourself to do what you're doing. And I remember when I first put on my LinkedIn profile, farmer and coach, it was really hard to do that. It was really hard to just be somebody that you don't see yourself as. But it is so important. If you want to do something different, you have to be somebody different. And to be somebody different, you have to kind of like look at yourself in a completely different way.
Yeah.
That's a psychological challenge.
Jamie, are you inferring that you were suffering from imposter syndrome whilst you were changing your profile to coach?
That's exactly that. Yeah, that's the name for it. It's imposter syndrome.
Yeah. We once asked Mark if he suffered from imposter syndrome, and there was a pause of about 5 seconds, and he said, "What's that?"
Brilliant. Clearly he doesn't. Yeah. Well, I mean, try it, Mark. It's just amazing.
and Jamie, just so we can really push this and learn from it, if we hop onto your website, and sorry, I should know this, would we find out more about your corporate offering so that we can all learn?
Yeah. I mean, if you go to the Meon Springs website, you'll see everything about what we do, diversifications. If you click on the training and development link, you'll go to another little website called Meon Insights, and that's what we're developing at the moment.
Okay, and whether it be a ball bearing manufacturer, whether it be a seed business within agriculture, whether it be a fresh produce company, you could give them an offering for training, development, and coaching, could you?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not necessarily agriculture. I mean, funny enough, we seem to be attracting a lot of lawyers at the moment, which is, but lawyers for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But that seems to be a good area for us.
And go, Emily.
No, I like Jamie's LinkedIn. I think you get a little kind of pocket full of his brain and insights and things he sees day to day on the farm and how that associates with leadership. So
yeah,
like LinkedIn posts.
Emily, again, we're learning so much from Jamie. Would you be recommending to I'm going to use that word again, that cohort of other dairy connections that you've got, that they should be looking to follow Jamie or find their own way? Emily, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, well, as part of the program, we try and put the entrepreneurs in front of other successful dairy farmers. We haven't actually been down to Jamie before, so maybe that is our idea for next time. But yeah, certainly following Jamie and following others in leadership roles that are willing to share. And I think you've got to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's the term, isn't it? Like say, the imposter syndrome for people.
Mark, do you think there's actually a mini industry that could be created here? Because the likes of Jamie and Emily's other dairy farmers, other industries could learn so much from us, couldn't they, Mark?
Loads of people can learn about lots of stuff in this arena. We did a bit of research a number of years ago into the percentage of the agricultural industry that actually engage within this people development, the softer skills side, the leadership management. There's only less than 1% of our industry that are regularly developing it. And if you don't, we all lead and manage on a day-to-day basis, whether you like it or not. And to be able to hone those skills is only going to enhance business, enhance your enjoyment within your role and push you forward. So yeah, definitely there's loads that can be learned from that.
Yeah,
and a surprising stat, 1% feels like a goldfish bowl. When you're in it, it feels like there's lots of people.
0.96, I think it is exactly, but yeah, it's under 1%.
Okay, and Mark, Emily, do you think we should see more of Jamie on the speaking circuit? I know he's going to be very, very busy doing the day-to-day, but being a positive radar advocate for dairy farming, for agriculture, but also coaching, teaching on a stage, to the ball bearing conference, the concrete conference, to an agricultural conference. Emily, do you think that's something that we should be endorsing and see more of Jamie and similar doing?
Yeah, no, I think there should be a platform for Jamie, and that's something I've really enjoyed bringing other farmers to Meon Springs, but as part of the strategic farm campaign. But it's nice to be able to have it wider, and I think we did think about taking Jamie on tour, so maybe there is possibility for that as well.
If I could do it, J-O-T, Jot, Jamie on tour.
Jamie on tour.
I think I think a lot of this, and not blowing smoke up Jamie's proverbial. The issue with the development in this area in our industry is because people don't relate to it and they don't see the relationship. Whereas Jamie is a productive, profitable, good dairy farmer, arable farmer down on the Hampshire Downs, and that could be the link to encourage more rural business for rural people, farmers, growers, employees within agriculture to actually dip their toe in this form of development. So yeah, lots of opportunity.
Yeah. So sorry, Emily, go.
Well, I was just gonna dig in a bit of question on that kind of practical forefront. Have you got? I mean, there's a wide range of people probably listening now and in the future, but for the farmers listening, what kind of day-to-day practical leadership and management skills do you think have been put to good use by you and the team?
Is that question to me, Emily?
Yeah,
it is. It is.
So what sort of practical skills have been put together? What from AHDB?
No, from you in terms of leadership style, whether that's process and procedure or things you put in place just day to day to help leadership.
Oh, within our business?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, again, I think it's probably one of the biggest things has been developing a structure and running the business within that, i.e. doing the vision and mission and setting up the outcome focus. I think that's probably been one of the biggest sort of transformations that we've had in this business, and it's just stopped us going round and round in circles.
And what have you stopped doing? Was there anything you've stopped doing that has been useful? Or you've seen the difference? Yeah,
stopped going round and round in circles. Buying tractors unnecessarily and things like that. We still buy tractors, so I mean, all tractor dealers welcome, preferably training programs, but we buy them for profitable reasons rather than banners.
Yeah. Jim, quick question, just in, where's this from? It's either from LinkedIn or YouTube. What's the biggest speed bump in your business that you wake up every morning wishing that you could conquer, but it's slightly out of your control? What's the biggest speed bump in your business?
Oh God, it'd just be lovely to control the future, wouldn't it? I mean, every day is a new day, isn't it, in business? And it doesn't matter what success or failures you've had in the past. It starts again at the moment you wake up in the morning. And I wake up invariably. I have this kind of like dread at the beginning of the day, like, oh my God, there's this, that, and the other I've got to be thinking about and doing and everything else. And until you sort of get control of yourself and you actually realise that you're just on that journey again. And it really is. I think it's there's never an end point to running a business.
Yeah. And Emily, just same question to you on behalf of all your dairy contacts. What do you think, just out of curiosity, what do you think is the biggest speed bumps or bumps that you're seeing currently within the dairy sector that perhaps the four of us can somehow cure today in another 8 minutes? Go, Emily.
I think it's volatility at the moment that farmers are struggling with. Rather than kind of day-to-day issues, it's being able to predict the future a little bit. So AHDB tries with resources and people to look forward, but I guess it's for farmers to have the time to be able to plan and get some structure in place, and that helps the day-to-day.
So. And Jamie, Mark, that's a really good thing about the AHDB, isn't it? That Jamie, it's like a safety blanket. It's the wrong word. A comforting blanket. Mark, it's you can help the likes of Jamie and other AHDB levy payers from what you can do. Jamie, do you agree?
No, I do agree. I've just had an interesting memory actually when we were just talking about this, and to put it into context, if this digital broadcast that we're doing now is still online in 20 or 30 years' time, somebody would be listening to it and they'd be going, well, I think it's volatility is the way. The reason I say that is because not so long ago I listened to a broadcast that came out in 1973 when Tom Parker, who was a very famous farmer in Hampshire.
I remember. Yeah.
He died, and they were talking about him, and it was exactly the same issues then as it is now, just with different paint on it. And at the end of the day, we're playing an eternal game. And I think really the point that I would put to that is that actually you just need to be more internally focused and learn how to steer the ship and run a business properly rather than worry about whether the price of milk's gone up, down, or indifferent. We've all got to suffer those sort of things.
Yeah. But it's interesting some of the words that you used, Jamie, over the last 5 minutes about worry, about fluctuations of pricing, about anxiety. Jamie, do you enjoy farming? Jamie, would you recommend farming?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely would. Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. But as I say, my internal pattern is a slight anxious one. Different people have different things. So, I mean, Emily, for example, I know is really, really chilled. We've had this sort of conversation. She said, I don't get anxious. She said, and I was thinking, that's ridiculous. Everyone does. And then I realized actually, no, they don't. Like, everybody has their own different things, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm a very positive person. I'm a very optimistic person. I always see the bright side rather than the dark side. Some people see doom and gloom ahead. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really good to know where you're coming from, what's good about your personality, what's bad about it, and how it's helping you, how it's not. I'm not saying you can necessarily change it, but that awareness and that detachment from it does definitely help.
Yeah. Tim, we're slightly running out of time. Emily, just sort of generally wrap up for us. What have we learned from today? Why should we be following Jamie and his amazing business? Where's this all going? Take us away.
Where's it all going? I think Jamie's outlook on leadership, he shows us that it's outcome driven and that there is a clear structure within the business, and that just sets a really good baseline for how people know their roles and responsibilities. It feels like it's avoiding firefighting. I'm not going to say that never happens within Jamie's business, but that's what you're trying to plan for. So yeah, taking that time, creating a structure and outcomes, and having the values that you're sticking to, where you're going. I think that's what Jamie's really shown us today. And I did what did I write down earlier? Can't build without letting go, which I thought was quite a good thing to look at.
Yeah, and Jamie, a question for all of you. We've got Nassar, who's on our Q&A. I think Nassar, I apologise because I think I deleted your question from earlier. I think he's in Dubai, but he's working for in the agriculture sector up north. Jamie, is there a demand for investment in British agriculture? Jamie, do you think, I asked you about should people get involved with British agriculture? Do you think people should invest in British agriculture, Jamie?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's get real. Geographically, we're one of the most productive areas of the world. I mean, why wouldn't you invest in British agriculture?
Yeah, well said. And also go back a bit. This bit about Jamie on tour. Emily, Mark, see what you think to this. I think that there's a number of PR companies within agriculture, and there's the fantastic British Guild of Agriculture Journalists. We should be looking to promote the likes of Jamie and creating opportunities for Jamie, because that's going to better the sector all round. Mark, what do you think?
No, definitely. Like-minded people learn from people, and Jamie's got a huge amount of skill sets, like a lot of our agricultural farmers. So yeah, the more people like Jamie can be in front of other people, the better.
Emily, would you agree?
Yes, I do. I'll sign up to be your agent, Jamie.
Well, I'm happy to stand up on a stage as long as somebody gives me some dinner.
Well, here we go. So Emily's going to be her agency fee is going to be in milk.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Mark, wrap up for us, please.
No, brilliant, Jamie. We could have gone on this conversation for a huge amount longer, and we had loads more questions that we could have asked. But I think, like touching on the points that Emily said, the bits that stood out for me is if you want, you've got to let go of something if you want to evolve and grow. I think that's really, really important because you've only got so much time and so much capacity that something has to fall off the plate to enable something to go. And then the second thing that I really, really liked was the structured autonomy. People want to work for themselves, and that's so true, that people want to have the ability to do their own thing, but it needs to be within a structure, and then build in your vision and mission and align that in some way to whether that's a third party like AHDB or your milk supplier, or whether that be your feeding manager or your arable manager, how you align with their individual goals and to drive things. Really, really interesting. So thank you very much, and look forward to speaking to you again.
Well done. And Emily, it's your time for your advertorial. Please big up what you do and the AHDB dairy sector, dairy side of what you do, please.
What we do exactly. So AHDB, at the moment, we've got events online. We've got the strategic farm program. So farmers like Jamie, but all over the country. So you can absolutely check out the AHDB events page. And then for the Entrepreneurs in Dairy program, I'll give that a little bit of a plug. It's run with ROBDF and Andersons and the NFU, and it happens each autumn. And it's a series of events for up and coming farmers, whether they're next gen or looking to take on their own business, and you'll meet farmers like Jamie across the country that are really positive, and I think that's really important. And investment in dairy sounds really exciting, so 100% want to go for that.
Jamie, if I was a dairy farmer, I'd love to be represented by Emily.
Oh no, she's brilliant. Yeah.
And just to wrap up, if anyone was in at the beginning, hopefully you were, and someone came in on messaging to say that they were related to Jamie and his brother Will, and Jamie is by far the most handsome one. Someone else has come in to say that I'm also a relative of Will and Jamie, and we've just done a straw poll of the cows, and the cows have deemed that brother Will is more handsome than Jamie.
Yeah, they do.
Sorry, Jamie. We have to.
Are we going to finish on that?
No. You're going to wrap up for us, Jamie. Go. You got 32 seconds.
Oh my goodness, that really puts me on the spot. I mean, I'd just like to say thank you all very much for this time and this hour. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. And as you sort of said, we were just going to stand and talk naturally about leadership and farming and other things. And I hope that people are listening have learned something from it. And if anyone wants to ask me questions or get in touch, jamie@meonsprings.com is a way they can contact me.
Yeah, Jamie, Jamie, well done, because we love people like you, because you're making the difference and you're promoting agriculture. You're employing some fantastic people. You got a beautiful herd of dairy cows, and we can all buy your fantastic produce in Sainsbury's.
Brilliant.
Excellent.